We are.
Hey guys.
It happened.
It happened. It finally happened. The debates. We've been waiting for this forever.
I'm in shock.
I know.
Trump, just when they came out and shook each other's hands,
I know.
that was real
Yeah.
and interesting.
It happened.
Lots to talk about tonight.
Lots to talk about. All right. So we have been watching the debates for the last hour and a half, 2 hours. We have been drinking just a little bit.
Do you need a designated talker?
Fine. I'm fine. We played a bingo game with words. Words like, oh, here.
20% battery. We're going to have to make this quick. So what do you guys think?
Let's go.
This debate started.
Okay, so I have to say, I thought it was hilarious that Trump started strong. He started strong. He sounded calm. He sounded collected. I feel like you could tell that he'd gotten coaching on not being a hothead, on not being overly emotional. And that lasted for like 10 minutes. And then he went into Trump mode, interrupting, rolling his eyes, being disrespectful. So he gave us a good 10 minutes of trying to be presidential.
Right.
10 minutes of, he almost swayed me.
Right.
No,
For 10
really.
minutes.
Not really. But I thought he did, at the beginning I was like, oh, he got coaching and he sounds reasonable. And then that went away. What did you think?
I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously so biased against Trump that I sometimes let that bias bleed in. And so my initial thoughts are that he was all over the map for the second 2/3 of the debate, that he lacked composure, that he was reactionary, that he was babbling, that we have people behind us waving. But my I think if you're a Trump supporter, you think, man, he really was tough and he took it to her. But I'm guessing that, hi, this is just so lively.
The moon walked behind us.
I know.
I also want to announce that in a minute, Paul's wife and I and our friend Crystal would like to have a minor fashion analysis of Hillary's outfits because we feel very strongly.
I feel very strongly about that one, and we'll see where that goes.
Okay, so stay tuned because we have things to say about Hillary's clothing.
Up for debate, fashion 1.0.
That's... Okay.
This is getting out of control.
I know.
Okay, so you're the leader here. Reel us in.
Well, okay. You know what's funny is I feel like Trump was not as off the rails as I thought he could have been. And I also feel like Hillary, there were many times where she kind of sat back and let him hang himself with his own robe.
Yeah. It was very clear. I mean, I found myself, I'm not a Trump supporter, I'm not a Trump fan at all. I am a Republican, lifelong Republican. But I found myself thinking, come on, Hillary, take it to him. You're just sitting back and smiling and looking very diplomatic. You're looking like a Secretary of State. Take it to him. And she very deliberately and very clearly did everything she could to look mature, composed, in control. And she let him talk. When they did the breakdown on who spoke more, she absolutely spoke half the amount of time that he did, I would guess.
Which was wise, because he continually interrupted her, which is not presidential. And so she looked more presidential by being calm and collected. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't show a reaction. And it's funny, we were, as a group, talking about just his, side by side, when he wasn't talking, like his faces. I mean, he just could not contain himself.
It seems like the comments we're getting so far, and thank you for those commenting. How much did you guys drink?
A lot. We drank a lot.
He hung himself. I'm wondering how many of you are moderates or Republicans that think he hung himself. So I think people that were supporting Hillary are going to think that he hung himself. But I'm wondering for moderates or Republicans if it looked as bad as even I thought it looked. I mean, he just looked, he just was off message. He wasn't answering the questions. He was spewing, and she just sat back and let him talk, it seemed, over and over and over again.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't think that his performance tonight was a loss for his constituency. I think he made enough sense. He to his followers. I don't think that he lost any of his followers tonight.
Right.
I think, at the end of the day, this debate, Hillary supporters walk away feeling good about Hillary, and Trump supporters walk away supporting Trump. I don't think he choked enough that his supporters were like, whoa.
But did he look as bad as I thought he looked? Did he, to even Trump supporters, did he look as bad as it seemed like interrupting her, that one time he said, no, or what did he say? Wrong. When, the issue, let's talk about the issue of her stamina. He didn't even back down from that. And he said flat out, I don't think you have the stamina. Like, why would he say such a thing where there are 100 million people, half of them women, watching? He has no basis to attack her. She's one of the most robust, hardworking people in our country at her age. But why would he attack? We've talked about this before, but it seemed like he held on to certain things that didn't seem strategic. To me, at least.
I agree, and I feel like it's like he was prepared and he was on message, like I said, for like 10 minutes, and then he just filed into the tropes, the typical tropes. Somebody asked about stop and frisk, and I did feel like the race conversation was really interesting because I felt like it was interesting to see the two of them accusing each other of more racism, But he called Hillary out on the what was the phrase that she used back in the 80s?
Right. Predator.
Super predator.
Yeah.
But she called him out. But I didn't love the conversation around African Americans and gun violence as if those two things are
right, hand in hand.
Right, like gun violence is a global issue in our country. I didn't love the tone of that conversation.
We have a moderate Republican here, thank you, Melissa, that said, wishing he'd give some reason to take a chance on him. He still seems too emotionally unstable for me to take a chance on him. Someone else, Amber, said he looked frustrated. Republican supporters said, I felt like my kids were telling me to, to get to the punchline. A conservative here, Lauren, thank you, said, has angst over supporting him. The interrupting and talking over both Hillary and Lester was embarrassingly awful. That's exactly how I felt the whole time. Canadian here, Wendy, thank you, says, and we honestly can't believe how this is happening. We're being punked, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like there is consensus that he was way too emotional and erratic. And she definitely was not erratic.
She wasn't. I have to say about the race conversation that while I wasn't pleased with either of them, to have Hillary, who is, obviously one of the presidential candidates for the United States of America, acknowledge the racial bias we're seeing with police, I thought was a big deal. Because I feel like even Barack Obama has had to play it really safe on that topic.
Yeah.
Because as a black man, as soon as he talks about it, then he gets these accusations of like, you're playing the race card, that kind of a thing. So I thought it was bold of her to really go in on that.
Yeah.
I wasn't super pleased with some of the surrounding context of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I think she was treading, like you're saying, very, very carefully.
Yeah.
Because of course, had she said anything that would have seemed to offend white people, offend police officers, he would have pounced all over it. And so she treaded very, very lightly.
He would have, and she knows she has to pander to a wide swath of people, many of whom are, still in denial about this systemic racism thing.
Becca said something, I totally agree. She says, he seemed to think time talking equaled winning the debate. He just rambled through and repeated his points.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, me too.
And she very clearly, and we watched a little bit of Jake Trapper on CNN saying that he said it was like dangling red meat in front of a hungry wolf. Every time she threw something out, he pounced on it. And you could just see her stepping back, having a very diplomatic look on her face, and just letting him go.
I think she was trained really well for this debate.
It seems like she was.
I do. Yeah, I agree.
It didn't have... it just didn't have... it was intense. There definitely were exchanges, and she went negative on him, but it had a certain decorum, like you were saying, for the first third or so.
I will say that it was not the clusterfuck I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it still was, but I mean, it could have been a lot worse. I think that's the best we could see from Trump. Like that's the highest level of emotional containment that he can do.
That's great. I totally agree. Christine, I love this comment. I love it when she shakes it off after one of his ramblings, and her giggles were hilarious. I mean,
Totally.
And there's no question that I've heard many times that President Obama is the textbook campaigner because he knows how to use satire, as do other people in this room, to get things done. But she laughed at the man.
Yeah, she did.
Over and over.
And it was like an
and
inside
over.
joke. We were all laughing. Like we were all laughing with Hillary. That I think is the like kind of overarching theme of the debate is she was endearing and we were laughing with her, not at her.
Yeah, it was tactical, and I think I think President Obama coached her well when he, I think, essentially said, to the degree that you can use humor and be light and non-intense, let him handle all the intensity.
Yeah, totally.
She wasn't very intense.
Yeah.
She was on message and composed.
Yeah. Somebody said talk about tax returns. I mean, I think that speaks for itself. I think that was an area in the debate where he lost. I mean, as you know, what was his name?
Lester Holt.
Lester Holt, who was not very active, I have to say.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
He was just kind of sitting back. But as he said, like, there's no requirement that he not release things because he's in an audit, and clearly he's just using that as an excuse.
Yeah, her response was, this was a very prepared response when she said the money. He said, well, if I didn't pay any tax, I'm smart. And she said something to the effect of, that's money that didn't go to our veterans, to our soldiers, to our police officers, and to our schools.
Right.
And that was a brilliant point. Someone says, I think most countries are listening to us now. Totally agree with you. I was thinking of this too, and I'm glad you brought it up, Katie. I think Hillary's number one goal was to come off as likable, and I think she pulled it off.
I agree. She did come off as likable because I don't always think she's likable, honestly.
And that's one of her most negative ratings. Trump did not come off as likable.
I agree.
He might have came off as strong. He might have come off as on message. But she came off as pleasant, composed.
I agree.
And to the degree that likability is something that she needed to improve, I think she killed it tonight.
She won tonight. So one of the points in the debate where I feel like we really actually saw some substance of Republican versus Democrat, in terms of philosophy, was the discussion about taxes and whether or not we, let or allow industry to kind of happen in other countries and the taxes we bring back. As a Republican, as you're watching that, I mean, at the end of the day, Hillary probably disagrees with your philosophy as a Republican.
Well, I mean, I think the hard part is, Trump's so against the trade deals, the horrible trade deals we have, but these trade deals are actually a very Republican idea, right? We want people that own businesses. If I own a company and I make tables here in America, I should be able to make them in China if I want. Why should the government tell me where to make the tables? And so Trump is making, a claim basically that we shouldn't allow businesses to have items manufactured overseas.
Which seems like a not very Republican ideal. I mean, right? Like, that actually seems a little more socialist or fascist.
Absolutely,
even.
yeah. And when they asked him, well, what would you do? He, of course, wouldn't answer the question because the only answer is some kind of heavy-handed government coming in and telling a company that they can't make widgets in Mexico, that they have to make them in Pennsylvania.
But, I mean, again, Republicans want a smaller government. They want less control, and that, to me, feels like more control.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and he couldn't answer the question. He didn't answer the question, but I do think that generally speaking, he's right. I mean, why are there so many Hondas and Kias and Toyotas in this country and so few Chevys and Fords and Chryslers in Japan and Korea? And I thought that just on my own for decades. Like, what's the deal? Like, who pulls these trade deals off? But the devil is in the detail. Like, how do you make that happen?
Right.
Do you tell Ford, the Ford Motor Company, sorry, you can't assemble cars in Mexico? That sounds like socialism.
It does. It does. There were many times when a question was put to Trump, and rather than answering the question, he re-articulated the problem.
Yeah.
So he didn't say how he would solve it. He would just re-articulate the problem.
And that's what he's good at. Things are horrible. Crime is horrible. African Americans have it worse than they ever have, ever. ISIS has taken over the world. our streets are on fire, inner cities are on fire,
Yeah.
the economy is as bad as it's ever been. That's what he does.
Yeah.
That's what he's actually good at doing, is painting a picture of Gotham City.
Yeah.
And many Americans sit and listen to it and think, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
things are horrible.
Right.
I'm just not so sure that he was convincing. I just still think that, is it really, and she did a good job. Crime is half of what it was in 1991.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have incidents that are horrible, but it's not as bad. And I think she did a good job in the beginning, saying by when President Obama took over the economy, it was as bad as it's ever been since the 1930s.
Yeah.
I thought she did a pretty good job there. Gotham City.
I don't know what's happening behind us.
Yeah, when she said "woo," that was good. I was convinced he was crazy. Oh man. Well.
All right. I feel like I need to bring your wife in and talk about Hillary's outfits.
Okay, bring her over.
All right. Gina, Crystal, it's time. It's time. You guys, we're going to depart from the usual
Talking fashion.
intellectual debate because we have I don't
Dogs. We have
know.
guitars.
We have thoughts about Hillary's clothing that needs to be discussed. So we're going to bring it down a notch, and we're going to discuss. This is Gina Martin, Paul's wife, Crystal Lewis.
Hello.
Ladies, what are our thoughts about Hillary's outfits?
Well, I think Gina said something really great earlier. Now I can't remember what it was,
Okay.
but I hope you remember.
Because we don't want to bash. Because
No.
we should all be able to wear whatever we want.
Everyone can wear what they
We can all
want.
wear whatever we want.
What about
Yes.
Donald's outfit? What about Donald's outfit?
We'll get to him later, but okay. But I feel like if she's trying to send a message with her clothes, her message is maybe I don't care very much about my outfits, which is okay if that's what she wants to present. But it's not what I think she could do better.
Yeah, I'm confused by the just giant swath of bright colors.
I agree.
I feel like, and it's so like it's monochromatic, it's super bright, and it's floor length somehow like one piece. And I feel like we could do like like black
Navy.
pantsuit,
Really
blazer.
elegant. I feel like that's what it is. I feel like she is an elegant, brilliant woman. I think
Yes.
she's fabulous.
I have a total counterpoint to all of this.
we
Go on.
could do.
People are
She
telling
can, her
us to
clothing
stop.
can reflect how fabulous and with her outfits.
I will say I felt like her hair was totally on point.
Yes, true.
tonight.
And makeup was good too.
Yes, I like the lip color a lot. I totally agree. I think that
People
it's
are leaving.
hard-
People are mad.
Are
It's
people mad
hard.
or no?
It's hard to tell what her sorry. It's hard to tell what her build is a little bit because sometimes I think like she just covers everything
Yes.
up and the proportions are a little bit funky with the like
Yes.
the long coat and the
Yes.
I would like to enlist the help of Stanley Hudson, my stylist slash brother slash best friend, who is a brilliant designer and I think he would have some really great things to say. I think there's probably 100 designers chomping at the bit to get their hands on
Yes.
her wardrobe.
Okay, let me weigh in. But isn't it? Don't you think it's true? Don't you think it's true though that the Clintons, right? They're this.
We're totally dumbing it down. You guys, come on. I mean, we just talked serious things, and now we can just talk about.
I'm just saying.
Fashion is important. I don't know if you know.
I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh,
she
fashion
has.
is art and it is
Hillary has
valid.
connections in the fashion world, and I don't think she's just waking up every day and going onto whichever website and buying her outfits. There are political experts
Agreed.
I agree.
giving her every color that she's wearing based on psychology.
Okay,
stuff,
well,
right?
if you
come on,
if you don't
calm
want
down.
us to dumb it down, I'm going to pull as philosophical because I actually think her outfits, unfortunately, are chosen to cover her body because we are uncomfortable
Yes.
Yeah.
with a middle-aged woman being public, and I think her outfits are a reflection of that discomfort at seeing a female form at her age.
The social construct of modesty.
Hey,
So we are cloaking her tummy, we're cloaking her thighs, because God forbid we see what a middle-aged woman or
Middle-aged.
older woman looks like, and it's not perfectly thin, and and so
Then you have
to
Melania
me-
on the other side.
Right. So to me, actually, her outfits feel like a giant covering. It's like the hijab of politics. I don't know.
Nice.
So I wish that she could just wear things that seem less tentish and
More flattering.
cloaking. Yeah. Anyway.
I think she looked good when they
upper, like from the waist up.
Honestly, it's as if she was cloaking herself for. I mean, that's a terrible word. For the tight shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
The Hillary
Oh, yeah.
job.
But just that it's all the
just
same
made
color.
something up.
That's the only problem I thought.
Right.
I don't know. Monochromatic isn't the worst thing in the world.
It's so much easier for men. That's what's so.
It's so true.
Turn brown.
I mean, look at Trump's
That's my
blue tie
sister.
and blue background.
Thanks.
I can't believe he didn't wear the white power tie instead of the.
Talk about their idea.
Oh, Robin, we did just talk about the ideas. We can divert a little bit. You guys, I mean, seriously, we can talk about politics and clothing,
This is
and
fun. Would you
we're
like to
allowed
go
to
for-
talk about all of it together. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. And we'll talk about, I mean, Trump's outfit. I mean, men wear the same thing. It's interesting. Men wear
wears the same thing
suits
and nobody
all the time. Nobody cares. But I just feel like it seems to me like there is more pressure on Hillary to cover herself.
I think that's a really interesting and perceptive observation.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think isn't she maybe just trying to make a non-issue of it?
It could.
He's
It
being
could be.
very
Maybe.
conservative, and she's being very conservative.
Not everyone is Michelle
But
Obama
sometimes
with
I will
her-
say, and I know nothing about these matters. So to those of you that aren't happy about this, just hear me out for a second. As a total novice, sometimes she just wears like the brightest fluorescent pink thing that looks like a tent, and it just I don't see many women out there wearing stuff like that. And sometimes I think, is that in fashion? Or is that out of fashion? It just doesn't seem like what most senators would wear, like Barbara Boxer or Dianne Feinstein, or it just doesn't seem conservative.
This is Diana. That's just BS. To hold her to that standard.
Agree.
No, I agree. I don't think she has to either. I do really truly feel like the way that she is dressed, with the monochromatic and the very like sheath kind of outfits, I think there is something there to just our kind of societal discomfort with women's bodies. But I could be alone. People are mad. People are mad about this
He's
conversation.
plumpier and horrible.
Everybody goes to the store and buys clothes.
Okay, so we talked about the debate for 15
It's okay.
minutes, and we talked about this issue for 5. So we'll get
Yes.
back to the next debate. What comes next?
Everybody cares.
Well, when is the next debate?
October 9th,
Okay.
and
Well, I'm just so pleased we finally had the debate. We've been waiting for this for so long. So long. And I mean, you know, I will say that at the end of the day, it was not as bad as I thought it would be. It was not as, like, cringy for America as I thought it would be. Yeah. What about what we were wearing?
haha, that's a good one. And were there any major gaffes? Is there anything that was said on either side? Yeah.
Well, yeah, Trump's wrong, I thought was a gaffe. I felt that Hillary's response to the conversation around race was a gaffe. I personally did. I think that there will be some, like, whoa,
Yeah.
around that
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think there'll be some commentary around Hillary's race problem. She tried, and she said some good things, and she said some things that were on point. But at the end of the day, she circled the race conversation around gun violence, which, and gun violence, not gun violence against Black Americans at the hands of police, but gun violence amongst the African American community.
She did, but she did
She
talk about
mentioned
systemic
it. I agree.
systemic racism.
I agree. So it was like,
I like when she said something like, some of us, I don't know how she worded it very carefully, but she said, you know, sometimes we have those biases and we have to ask ourselves. So she was treading into that domain that nobody
Yeah.
wants to talk about.
yeah.
I thought it was very risky for her to do that. I mean, I agree with her, obviously,
Yeah.
but I thought it was risky terrain. But
It was, and I'm really curious to hear. I'm really curious to hear kind of the reaction from Black intellectuals on what she had to say. Yeah. Yeah, I want more. I want more in the next debate about race issues as well, for sure.
yeah, she brought up Trump's lawsuits in the 70s, and
Yeah.
she
Not flattering for him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sitting through our horrible conversation about fashion,
This one was a lively one.
which apparently offended many of you. I promise we won't talk about it again in the future. All right. So we will link this up in our blogs. Leave comments. We want to hear from you, and we will be back next week.
See ya.